Welcome back to Street Rust. It's late, but I am committed to doing something on this car tonight. I'm like I said in my last video, I'm committed to getting something done here, getting this car on the road, making everything what it ought to be. We are going to tear into this carburetor, so stand by, I'll get everything set up. Okay, 68 Newport 383. This is a Carter 2-barrel. They call it a ball and ball, a BBD. And I'm trying to remember, it's the number for the carburetor. They said it would, we'll look at that when we pull it off. They said it should be on a tag on the air horn. Of course, I don't see that. That probably indicates that someone's been into this in the past. Anyway, should be pretty quick and simple. We're going to remove the linkage. We're going to remove a bunch of vacuum lines over here. We're going to remove the fuel line and we'll get over to the bench. I am going to put a towel down here. This engine's not hot, hadn't been running today. But just in case we spill some fuel, we're going to start right there. So let's get this. Now the fuel line is hooked up to the fuel pump, but I've got the tank out. So I've got an auxiliary tank hooked up to the fuel pump. So we shouldn't have a lot of fuel in here. So let's take a look at this real quick. See what we can get done. This should come off fairly easy. You would hope. There we go. There we go. Easy. That's too easy. That's like scary easy. Anyway, we're going to disconnect this. There you go. That's off. I believe I've had that off before when I drove it home all the way from Oklahoma, about 2.5 hours. I had some issues. Anyway, got that. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get the, let's get all this linkage off. I've taken pictures of it in the event that I forget what I've done. I want to keep, let's see, we can keep, actually I could probably keep that together. It's this piece right here. I'm blocking it with my hands. I got to get better at this. So we're going to go ahead and, let me get my pick. Now, these picks are a great little tool, but I'm notorious for stabbing myself in the thumb with them. So I'm going to try not to do that. All right, there we go. Let's get that cotter key out. Well, that just, you'd think it'd slide right out. There we go. All right, let me get the needle nose on it now. I think we can just probably pull that bad boy right out. Oh, we do have to take that off. Listen, I've never done a Mopar carburetor, period. I've done a lot of Ford 2-barrels 2100s, but I've never done one of these. So we're learning together, man. This is gonna be like opening up a Christmas present. I love doing new things like this. So we've got that off. I'm gonna hold that washer over here. We've got this off. This should all come off together here. Let's see how that comes off. There we go. And then we got that off. So that's done. Lickety split. Okay, let's get these vacuum lines off. Gotta love that. Sometimes these vacuum lines just need a little twist, and that'll help loosen them up so we can get them off. It broke. I'm gonna need some new vacuum line, which is no big deal. All right, let's get this vacuum line off. Oh, we've got to take this off too. Well, all right, let's get this other vacuum line off. You know what? Let's get this off first. Okay. So, I know these videos are supposed to be entertaining. I'm not very entertaining. But hopefully this will encourage many of you to jump in and try to do some of this stuff yourself. It's really not that difficult once you learn how to do it. And like I said, I've never been into one of these carburetors. And that clip is boggling my mind. So it's got to, oh, duh, it's one of those. Just like on 2100. Right there, that's off. I'm going to save that. Okay, now I can get to this bottom vacuum line. But the thing is, you're not going to hurt anything. You're really not. That vacuum line's off. Let's get this vacuum line off on the back. Let me go around the side for that. And we'll get that bad boy off. So really, we've got everything disconnected here except the bolts. And I did notice a couple things when I was getting my wrenches sized. I've got 7/16 and 1/2 inch. I've also got one as a bolt instead of a stud. So I am going to go ahead and start working on getting these off. I believe this, nope, that's a 1/2 inch, not a 7/16. We can get this bad boy started. None of these, I mean, they look to be in really good shape. This car was stored inside. So I'm going to get this off. I don't see any washers, but I don't think there's supposed to be any washers. I didn't see any in the manual. So we're going to go ahead and get this one off. Kind of do these one at a time. Oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, it's coming off. Get my magnet here. It's almost too high, but got it. So we got that one. And let's go ahead and get this back one. All right. Where is it? Oh, yeah, this is the one that, now this linkage is, all the stuff's in the way now. There we go. This is a 1/2 inch bolt instead of the stud. But we're not going to have this on here too long. I'm rebuilding this just so I can get this thing running a little better, idling better. And could probably go without rebuilding it, but I wanted to get it done just because I want to do it. Anyway, I'll have to look at this. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a stud, not a bolt. Not that it doesn't work, but that's a bolt, not a stud and a nut. So we got that. Now, let's get this other front one here. Now, you certainly can't say that it's too difficult to take off. This is pretty doggone simple. It's not too difficult. Just keep walking that up. Of course, you got to have one that doesn't want to just come off. And I didn't spray these down because they look pretty clean. And usually you don't get a lot of corrosion and such up under on the carburetor studs and everything. I don't know if the stud's coming out or the bolt's coming off, but we're fixing to get something done here. I think the stud's coming out. Either way, we want to get this licked. Come on. Of course, one of them's got to be a bearer, doesn't it? Come on now. Yeah, the bolt's coming off. Thought it was a stud, but it's the bolt. It's gonna push me all the way to the top, though. No, I don't want it to come off. Just my fingers. We'll get her. I got the 4-barrel intake for this. I'll show it to you here in a little bit. It's a 7501 Y-end. Came off the 69 Roadrunner. I'm excited about that. Now, why am I building the 2-barrel carb on this when I got the intake? Well, I don't have a carburetor for it yet. And I think I'm gonna stage how I do this engine. I'm going to go ahead and do the 4-barrel intake, and this is all from a budget standpoint. I got the 4-barrel intake, and I'm going to pick up a Holly. Haven't decided what size yet, and go ahead and get that set up on here. See how it runs with the regular log exhaust manifolds, and then I'll upgrade. The next thing will be to upgrade to the high performance exhaust manifolds, which is the route I'm going on this. And then the next option, I want to get everything levelized with the carb and the exhaust manifolds and everything in the intake. Then I'll move in. That'll kind of tell me where I need to be with the cam. All right, now this one back here was a 7/16. It's totally different. Come on now. One more bolt and we got this bad boy. One more nut. Yeah, it's already loose. Look at there. Tight on there. Curious to see what it looks like here. This one's coming out real easy. So we ought to have it. We ought to have this squared away. And there is the last nut. Alright, let's go ahead and see what we got here. I think I got everything disconnected. What's holding me up? What don't I have disconnected? Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, look at there. So we'll have to look at all of these gaskets. That's on there pretty tight. I think we got new ones. Gosh, doesn't look too bad. Take a look at that. Actually, it looks pretty good. And let's take a look down, see if we can see down. That looks pretty nasty. This thing's been, you know, running rich. I guess that would be an indicator that somebody can let me know on that too. All right, we got this bad boy off. Let's get it over to the bench and start tearing into it. Okay, we got this thing back over here to the bench. So I don't see any numbers on here that tell me whether this is a 4422S or a 44, what is it, 23S? Yeah. And it's supposed to be on the tag on the air horn. Don't see it. Really not going to matter. We're just doing a quick rebuild on here. We're not tearing this thing totally apart. We're gonna tear the main body parts apart. So 3 sections on this. You've got the air horn, you've got the main body, and you got the throttle body. We'll be taking all of that apart real quick. So let's go ahead and dig into this. Looks like we've got to get rid of these air horn bolts. I'm just going to go ahead and loosen. There's nothing super tight on this. I think someone's been into this before. And well, that one's a little too loose. So, you know, it didn't run bad, but it didn't run good. It was always just a little doggy. And this thing, boy, I'm afraid to take that off. I'm going to see if I can not take that off for now. I've looked at the rebuild kit, and it has one. Here, I'll just show it to you. So it's got a new gasket here, but it doesn't fit in here tight like that does. I don't think that's going to be a huge problem, but I just want to make sure before I start ripping into everything. So we're going to go ahead and get all these off the best we can. Not the best we can. And this does not go. That's a whole nother story. That fell off my cabinet up here. We'll get that out of the way. That's not off this carburetor. So let's go ahead and... Had some stinky gas in it. I've had this thing sitting for a while. I've been detained with other things in life. Let's go ahead and get all these off. And I'm also practicing, you know, I'm trying to figure out what's the best angle with the GoPro, what's the best lighting, what gives you the best benefit to see what we're doing here. So we're just going to spin these off. Don't know if this is going to be a 1-part, 2-part, but hopefully it'll help someone out there for sure. Not very entertaining to most, but for those of you that are sitting there trying to rebuild one of these BBD carburetors, I do hope that this will be some benefit to you. So we've got that apart. That air horn ought to come off. I don't want to force it. I don't see any other screws. So that bad boy ought to come off. I don't see anything else. There's the gasket right there. I am going to just finesse that a little bit. Obviously, we don't want to break it. I wonder, let's see, there's no other screws to that. I wonder if there's 2 screws under this. This is gonna have to come off. This is gonna have to, ooh, looky there. And look, there are 2 more screws. I am so glad that I did not force that. Hope y'all can see that. Down inside here, there's 2 more Phillips screws. The manual said there were 2 recessed screws, and you know, you never know with the manual. It's so generic. I have the shop manual for 68, covers Imperials, Newports, New Yorkers, things of that nature. These are coming out pretty good. Now, let's see what we got. Let's see if that's any looser. Still not loose. I'm gonna go ahead and get these 2 screws out. I just made a big old honking mess there. There's one. Where's the other one? The other one's still in there. Let's get these out of the way. Yeah, it's not pretty, is it? But this is real life. This is what's going on in your garage. It smells like gas. I'm gonna get in trouble for that, but I don't care. It'll be all right. Get the round screwdriver here. Get this one all the way out. Now this thing should be, we should be able to separate this now without hurting anything, and that's what I'm going to try to do. It's where I, and there it went. I can feel it get. Okay, now one thing we do have to do over here is we've got to lift this up and take it off. So there's your air horn. We'll talk, and there's the gasket. We'll talk about that a little bit. There's that other screw. Okay, so let's lay that off to the side. Let me get another paper towel. I don't want to booger any of that up. Okay, so we got that over out of the way. Now, so this is the air horn. This is the main body. You got, oh, nice to see brass floats, and those look beautiful. Those got, I gotta believe this thing's been rebuilt. Anyway, air horn, throttle body, correction, main body, throttle body. Okay, we're gonna start right back here. Okay, back to the air horn. As we're going through this process, I'm checking to make sure before I get real rough with the gasket that I have the appropriate gasket. And there's a couple things here. This is your accelerator pump plunger. You know, like on a 2100 that would be on the side, but this is a Mopar on a Ford. Anyway, so I definitely have this gasket. I've got this gasket here, no problem there. I have also got the new plunger. Okay, so we're good there. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off. Well, let's take this plunger off first, show you how this works here. What you do, it's just hooked on right here. You basically, it's spring tension. You just hook it up. You just hook it up and slide it off right there. And there's a little retaining cap. You gotta be careful. It's right here. This goes to it as well. We gotta keep all that together. Okay, so we've got that. We'll need those parts again for sure. I'll just put that over here. And then I want to kind of ease, let me get a, put it on or something there. Let me set that to the side. Yeah, I don't want to get too aggressive. I'm going to take this out as well. Now here's what's going to happen. All these parts laying here. Casper the Ghost is going to come out in the garage on my workbench while I'm at work tomorrow, and not me isn't going to know who came out here and messed with everything. So really, this doesn't look too bad. It pretty much indicates that somebody's been into this. So we'll leave that there. Put the new parts back over here. Now we have the fuel inlet needle valve. I'll get to that in a minute. Let me back up a second. So anyway, that's pretty much all we're going to do here. I'm not going to soak this. I'm just going to clean it out with carb cleaner, so I'm not going to take this diaphragm off. So we're pretty much done with that part right there. Now, this part right here. This is the fuel inlet needle and valve. What you'll see, I want everybody to see this, how this works. Basically, well here, let me just go ahead and take this out. It's got a gasket on it. What looks like it was leaking around here as well. That gasket's pretty wore out. But here's your needle right here. So as that float comes up, it's kind of, you know, it works off the fuel pressure. When the fuel comes in, it'll open that up and let fuel into it. But when the floats come up, you'll see that pushes that needle and shuts off the fuel supply. Okay, that's pretty basic there. Okay, I took a second here to get a little more organized. And let's get this thing a little levelized here. Okay, the floats. Fulcrum, you've got a retaining pin here. You know, this retaining pin will come out real easy. But when the carburetor is together, when the air horn is on, it is pressing down on this. So there's not a problem with that coming out. That's why it's this loose. So we're going to take that out. And then we're going to gently take out... You've got a fulcrum pin in there and you've got dual floats. And I haven't really checked. No, those are looking, there's no fluid on the inside, can't hear anything. I don't even see a need to test those. Those look pretty good. So now the other thing, which I am absolutely not familiar with, are the step-up pistons and these step-ups. And this assembly is supposed to come apart. So this is supposed to come off here. There's a tension spring in here. And we're going to go ahead and pop that off as well. Hope everybody can see that okay. Watch how we take this apart so we know how to put it back together correctly. Okay, there is a little, I mean, it's not a huge amount of tension, but I don't want it going flying across the room. I need to really see how this is all put together. So these are called, what are these called? Metering rods? These little things right here. I've never seen anything like that, never done one of these carburetors. But that's what it is right there. Sounds like the cats are fighting outside. Isn't that wonderful? So I'm going to lay this over here by itself for now. There's supposed to be some gaskets in here too. And let me get a light. See if we can take a little closer look. I don't see anything in there right now. I don't know if that's a gasket. No, that's not a gasket. So, okay, so we got that apart. It doesn't look too bad in there. It looks pretty good. So we're just going to check everything out. I'm not going to tear this. Like I said, I'm done with the air horn. I'm not pulling any of that apart. It looks really good. I'll clean it up a little bit. This is looking pretty good. We're going to go ahead and go to the next step. Okay, next step. We are going to take out the jets and we are going to take out this Venturi cluster right here. Okay, now I can tell you that I've already popped those loose. I don't have the special tool. Here's my special tool. It's usually a thick blade screwdriver, and I'm very careful to get in there to get a firm grasp on this and start these out. This one popped. This one did not. This one was, it almost seemed like it was a little loose. It wasn't super tight. So we'll get them started with that big one. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. So we got any numbers on here? This is, oh, my eyes are horrible. It's got a part number 120-3115. I'll have to see what that is. But anyway, those don't look to be in bad shape. They look pretty clear. Not any issues there either. So we'll go ahead and get those out. And then we'll get this Venturi cluster out. So all looking pretty good right now. Now this, I know that somebody's been into this. Number one, it's entirely too clean. Number two, you see little signs. I can feel it, but there's little burrs on here where somebody has cranked in on there, and I did not do that. So I know somebody's been in there, and this is the same number there. Okay, so we got that. Now the Venturi cluster, you got two screws here. We'll go ahead and get those. Those were loose. They weren't super tight, but they weren't super loose, but they weren't tight. Now there's going to be some gaskets. Got to watch for these gaskets. Okay, there's one screw. There's the other screw. Okay, we got those, and this should just lift up off here, and it does. And there should be some gaskets. There it is right there. Now let's, just out of curiosity, let's take a quick look at our gasket box here. So we can see this is between the air horn and the main body that goes on top. This one I'll have to figure out for the base, because this looks like the one that's on, but this one's super thin. But the Venturi, it looks like there's also a Venturi gasket right here. Let's see which one of those we need. Oh, look, we even got new pins, and there's little balls floating around in there and all that kind of good stuff. Got our new accelerator plunger. So let's take a quick look at these and see. Boy, I tell you what, it's overwhelming sometimes to look at those parts kits. But when you start doing it, first of all, take pictures. I took some pictures before I pulled it off, and I'm taking a few pictures as I go. I'm videotaping this with a GoPro as well. Videotaping, gosh, that's so 80s. I'm recording this with a GoPro, and but you never know when your recording is going to stop or corrupt or something, so I'm taking some pictures. So back to the Venturi, it looks like this is our guy right here. So we have a new gasket for that as well. So that's awesome. And we'll put these back over with the rest of the gaskets. Okay, now we got to figure out these little balls before we get too in depth. There's supposed to be two balls in this carburetor. There's a big one and a small one, and I'm not seeing the small one unless, oh, I bet it's down in here. Anyway, I'll take a quick look and be right back. Okay, had to figure out these check balls. There's a little vagueness in the shop manual, go figure, right? But you have an accelerator check ball, which you can see right here, which is the smaller of the two. The one that you can't see is down here where your plunger goes. And what the manual doesn't talk about is this little piece right here, which looks to be a compression cap that goes down in there. And you can see, let me get a light here and see if we can see that a little better down in there. You can see down in here, there's that same piece. And you can see that this is the intake check ball valve. I am not going to pull that out and replace it. Everything looks to be in good order. When I put the new accelerator plunger in, this is the old one, we'll be able to put some fuel in this bowl and check that and make sure it's working. Shouldn't let any fuel by it, so we'll check into that. So what we're going to do now, we're going to move on. I'm going to put this back where it belongs. And okay, move this back a little bit. We're going to go ahead and separate the throttle body right now, and that's going to be a well, there's that check ball. That's the accelerator check ball. We're going to put that right there. That's the smaller of the two. I have a new one for that as well. Anyway, the air horn was held on with the Phillips screws. Okay, these are all look to be flat blade, and that was very loose. I haven't touched these. You can also see where the screw is boogered up. Look, very, very loose. I know you're not supposed to over tighten this stuff, but this stuff is super, super loose. So let's see what we got here. I mean, super loose. And that may have been creating a vacuum issue right there. We'll take a look at the gasket and, whoops, we'll take a look at the gasket and see if we have any issues there. All right, let's take a quick look at this one. Out in a minute. See how this check the screw out. See how the screw is kind of boogered up there? That has been out before. No doubt about it. And as clean as this thing looks, it's pretty obvious that somebody's probably attempted to rebuild this. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and take these out. We got to take care of this. We got to take care of this linkage too. Let me get these screws out. There's the gasket right there. Let me make sure I got one of those. And we do. That is a match. We're good. Okay. You do notice that this one blocks all of this off, and this one doesn't. I'll have to look at that a little bit too. Anyway, let me go ahead and get these two screws out. And then we'll take a look at the linkage here of what's going on there. Get that out. Tell you what, this is the best 99 cents you can invest in right there. So, okay, now I think this is pretty self-explanatory here, but this just comes unhooked right here. The only way that'll come unhooked is if this is taken apart. So here's your throttle body. Once again, we're not going to tear it down any further than that. We're just going to clean that up. It looks really good. Looks really, really good. But there's something about this carburetor. And that's all we're tearing down there too. So we've got the three main parts. Let's go ahead and look at those again real quick. You've got the air horn that sits on top of the main body. Go ahead and take that vacuum off, okay? And then you've got the throttle body, which goes on the bottom. Make sure I got this right. That's the front. That's the front. So that's the front. Sits on there. Okay, that's what we got. Now I will look a little closer into these, and I have these. Let's see where these are set. Let's just use a screwdriver here. We'll take these out and clean them. But I've got, let's see, that's a half turn, a full turn, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. They're about 4, about 4.25. So half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, about 4, and that's entirely too far. We know that. Okay, go ahead and take these out. See how they look in there. I mean, it is pretty mucked up in there. This thing's set a while. It may just be gummed up and bad fuel and things of that nature. We'll go ahead and leave those in. I just want to take a look at it real quick. See how they look in there. We'll probably get this back together. We'll seat them and then back them up 1.5 to 2 to start out. This thing was running with that being out 4. That one looks a little cleaner, but not much. We'll check all that out. Okay. Okay, the one thing I didn't talk about was the idle mixer set screw. I want to see where that is set. They say don't use a screwdriver, but we'll be gentle. There's a half a turn. There's a half a turn. That's 1, 1.5, 2, 3, 2.5, 3, about 3.5. Okay, about 3.5 on that. I want to take this out real quick and look at it as well. And this is going to be all that we're doing. It's a little mucked up, but not too bad. We'll be spraying all that out and cleaning it up. So I'm going to put that back in there so I remember where that goes. Okay, there you have it. That is the teardown as far as we're going to go. Now, if you were, you know, let's say this were a 4-barrel carburetor, and you were looking at your, I mean, replacing, if this stuff were rusty, you were rebuilding the carb for a vintage car where it wasn't cost effective to get a new one, you can buy the kit. Usually these break off, but these look like they're in pretty good shape. You can change the shaft and the bushings. We're not going to be doing any of that. So we're going to get this bad boy cleaned up, and we'll put it back together. But I'm stopping there for tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow.